Losing control of your life doesn't happen in one big moment. It slips away little by little. Every time you silence that inner voice or you say, I really wish I could be doing that, but I can't because you hand over another piece of your future success. And that was me in my 20s until I discovered the 5 keys that helped me take back control and find fulfillment and make my first million by 33 while actually building work I'm really passionate about. So give me just a few minutes today and I will show you exactly how to do it too. How many of you have ever heard of the name Louise Hay? She was an American motivational speaker, author, self-help pioneer, and Louise Hay didn't start her publishing company until she was in her late 50s. So by most people's standards, that is too late to start something new. She had every reason to say, I'm too old, I'm too late, my best years are behind me. But she didn't let all of those circumstances define her, and she decided she wasn't done yet. She went on to build Hay House, which is a company that became one of the biggest names in self-help and personal development publishing. Millions of people have been impacted by the work she created after most people would have been saying, I'm just going to retire. And so why do I share that story? Because there's a narrative out there that some people will want you to believe, which is that you can't succeed because the system is broken, and it's too late, and it's too hard to win, and it's not fair. Maybe something like that is going on inside of you right now. Maybe for you, it's not starting a publishing house. Maybe it's writing your first book or launching a coaching business or finally taking your health seriously. And the temptation is to believe the lie that, well, it's all rigged anyway, so why even try? And I'm not saying that there aren't real challenges that people face. Sure there are. I'm saying the point is, it's not what's outside of you that determines what's possible for you. It's the standards that you set inside that actually determine what's possible for you. So your circumstances are real. Yes, those are the real facts. But those don't get to decide what's possible for you because your standards do. Your decisions, your willingness to keep going, and those come from inside of you. And so the question isn't, am I too old? Am I too late? Do I have the right background? Do I fit the part? The question is, what standard am I willing to set for myself today? Because that's what actually moves your life forward. Jim Allen says, you are today what your thoughts have brought you. You will be tomorrow where your thoughts take you. And so let me ask you, where are the thoughts you've had today taking you? Are they pointed towards scarcity or abundance? If your thoughts today create your tomorrow, then what kind of tomorrow are those thoughts creating? Because every time you dwell in fear and scarcity, you are literally rehearsing the life you don't want. But the opposite is also true. When your thoughts are focused and diligent and directed towards growth, progress, abundance, you're rehearsing the life you do want. And so for those of you who are serious about turning around scarcity into abundance, there are 5 internal keys that directly lead to abundance. And the first key is visualization. What does that mean? It means you have the ability to see something in your mind before you ever see it in your reality. Visualization in your mind works the same way vision works in your eyes, except that your eyes can only see what's in front of you, but with your mind, you can see it years before it shows up. Think about it. Every business that you admire started in someone's head first. They pictured the kind of customer they wanted to serve or the product they wanted to create way before it ever existed. And athletes do the same thing. Before they step out onto the court, they run through the play in their head. Shawn Johnson, the Olympic gymnast, talked about how her coach had her visualize her gold medal routine over and over again before she ever performed it in competition. And I remember doing this myself. I would sit and I would picture what it would be like to have my own private practice, working directly with people and watching them experience real transformation. And I saw myself in control of my time and in control of my schedule. And I imagined choosing my own rates and deciding exactly how much I could earn. And I rehearsed what it would feel like to walk into my office and sit down with a client and meet with them and to know I was building something meaningful. And I saw it before it was ever real in my 3D reality. And eventually, I created the exact vision I had been playing in my head for years. And so this is about your ability to create this mental movie of a future that you really want to have before ever shows up in the world, right? Maxwell Maltz calls this the theater of the mind. And so the real question is, what are you rehearsing in your head every day? Are you replaying all of the ways it could go wrong? What if it doesn't work? What if I fail? What if I don't have enough? What if people don't like it? Or are you rehearsing the version where it works, where it pays off? Because whatever picture that you hold on to the longest in your mind is the one you eventually start moving towards. The second key is awareness. See, awareness is simply the ability to notice what's actually there. And we forget that most of us weren't born with awareness of the things that we have today, the things that we take for granted. We once had to learn to recognize them. A toddler doesn't start out knowing the difference between their left and their right. They had to learn what that was through repetition until it became second nature. When I was a child, I didn't even know my own name. I didn't know I had a name. I didn't have awareness that I had a name. So people around me would be talking to me and talking around me, and words are flying past me that I have no awareness of. And then one day, someone says, "Your name is Valerie." And that one of those days, I created awareness that my name is Valerie. And suddenly, the sound that I've been hearing all this time meant me. That's what awareness does. It takes what was invisible and turns it into what is visible. If you're trying to lose weight, one of the first things you have to do is become aware of what you're eating and how much you're eating. If you want to be more productive, one of the first things you have to do is become aware of where your time is going. The point is, awareness has to be developed. You weren't born recognizing all of the patterns and all of the distinctions, but you built the capacity to have awareness for those things. And the more you raise your awareness, the more you buy back years that are currently slipping by unnoticed. The next key is prioritization. Prioritization is the ability to put things in order so the most important thing gets done first. Now, everybody knows what it's like to spend an entire day not doing this, answering other emails, running errands, doing all these little tasks, only to realize at the end of the day, the thing that actually mattered didn't get touched. It's like cleaning your house. You can spend all of the hours rearranging your bookshelf and making it beautiful, or wiping down the counters, but if the sink is overflowing with dishes, that's where the leverage is. Do that first, and then the whole place feels cleaner. Or think about studying for a test. If you have 10 chapters to review for the test, you don't start with the material that you already know. You don't do the easy material first. You start with the chapters that are actually going to decide your grade. Prioritization. And the problem is, most of us do the exact opposite. We have a tendency to start with all the easy and the convenient things because it feels good to check those off. So we answer the notifications we want to look at, and we scroll through our inbox, or we let other people's priorities hijack our own. And by the time the day is over, the critical thing never got addressed. And so it ends up costing us years of our life, wasting time and opportunities by avoiding the very thing that we know we should be doing. What is the thing that you know that you need to do today that would move the needle for you today? The next key is communication. This is where you learn how to use your words with intention, because words create leverage. Think about it. You could spend 12 hours just doing the work yourself, or you could spend 12 minutes giving really clear instructions, setting expectations, or making a request that moves the needle forward without you having to do it. This is how you buy back years of your life. See, most people never realize this. They use their words carelessly for complaining, doubting, gossiping, making small talk, having meaningless conversations that don't change anything or move your mission forward. It's like throwing rocks in front of their own progress. But when you use your communication as a tool with intention, it multiplies your time and creates impact. If a teacher gives a lecture one time to a room full of people, that same lesson has reached hundreds of students, but they only had to communicate it once. An author writes a book once, and the new readers pay them for that book year after year after year. Or in today's world, you could create an online course and create it one time, package your knowledge, and that course can communicate your value to thousands of people while you sleep. And so we've all seen people do this at the highest level. Some of the best communicators out there, Martin Luther King Jr. spoke 17 minutes on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, and then decades later, people still quote, "I have a dream." Steve Jobs stood on the stage and said, "One more thing." And those words introduced products that shaped the entire industry. Oprah built an entire empire by having conversations that mattered. Jim Rohn says, if you just communicate, you can get by. But if you communicate skillfully, you can work miracles. Communication. The next key is production. Thinking and talking aren't enough. At some point, you have to create something other people can benefit from. See, I believe that we as human beings, one of our purposes as human beings is to be creators and to create things of value to one another in this world. That's why we're here. In fact, when you look at the people who are the most dissatisfied in life, the most unfulfilled with their work, they'll tell you it's because they don't feel like what they're doing is making a difference. And the moment they start to produce something of value for the world, their life gets better. And as a byproduct of that value they're creating, their income increases. Why? Because wealth is created by your ability to create value for somebody else other than yourself. And when you produce something that solves a problem or makes life easier for somebody else, you gain back income, you gain back time, trust, influence. You gain back so much more. And so that's why being a producer matters. But here's the key. If you want to get lots of people to say yes to what you are creating in the world, you have to care about their problems even more than they do. When you obsess over their pain, their frustration, their desire, and then you bring them a solution to that exact thing, you build massive amounts of trust and goodwill in the marketplace for people to want to pay for those solutions from you. And so my point is this. When you align your thoughts and your words with what you do, the results in your life have no choice but to change. Think about it like this. Your mind is the soil and your words are the seeds. Whatever you plant with your words, your life will eventually grow. If you keep planting seeds of fear, doubt, excuses, you'll harvest more of the same in your life. But if you plant vision, belief, and possibility, the field of your life changes completely. Look at your health, look at your business, look at your relationships and your bank account. They are all a direct reflection of what you've been planting up until now. So let me ask you, if you knew every word was a seed sown into the garden of your future, would you keep planting the same ones? Or would you plant something different today? Your mind already has the capacity to grow whatever you decide. Use words to take back your life. And if you're serious about changing your financial future, in the next video, I show you exactly how I reprogram my mind to be rich in just 17 minutes. Check it out. I'll see you over there.